Reuben Hassan, Rhodes, 70, 1944. David Hassan, Rhodes, 63, 1944. Signoru Hassan, Rhodes, 34, 1944. Nissim Hassan, Rhodes, 57, 1944. Shlomo Hassan, Rhodes, age unknown, 1944. Moshe Hassan, Rhodes, 61, 1944.
Isaac Mervis, from Krakenova, Lithuania, age 71, place of death unknown, 1941. Fruma Picture, Krakenova, Lithuania, age 38, place of death unknown, 1941. Abel Picture, Krakenova, Lithuania, age 36, place of death unknown, 1941. David Picture, Krakenova, Lithuania, age 10, place of death unknown, 1941. Shlomo Nossan Picture, Krakenova, Lithuania, aged 8, place of death unknown, 1941.
Rivka Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Rachmael Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Chaya Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Genik Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Gessel Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Golda Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Moshe Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Meir Ber Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Zalman Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Mendel Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Itzik Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Frumka Zakstein, Abel, Lithuania. Mendel Levinas, Rakiskis.
Israel Grosbein, Dolzhinav Belarussia, age unknown, place of death unknown, 1942. Yitzhak Grosbein, Dolzhinav Belarussia, age unknown, place of death unknown, 1942. Pesach Grosbein, Dolzhinav Belarussia, age unknown, place of death unknown, 1942. Chana Grosbein, Dolzhinav Belarussia, age unknown, place of death unknown, 1942. Rosha Krauts, Dolzhinav Belarussia, age unknown, place of death unknown, 1942. Isidore Levy, Arweiler, Germany, age 57, Theresienstadt, 1942. Bertha Levy, Arweiler, Germany, age 53, Theresienstadt, 1942. Alphonse Levy, Arweiler, Germany, age 31, Dachau, 1939. Martha Levy, Arweiler, Germany, age 31, Theresienstadt, 1942. Otto Levy, Arweiler, Germany, age 24, Theresienstadt, 1942. Bessie Levy, Arweiler, Germany, age 21, Theresienstadt, 1942.
Ludwig Levy, born in Cologne, Germany, date and place of death unknown. Eugenie Levy, born in Cologne, Germany, date and place of death unknown. Chaim Rosenberg, born in Latvia, Riga, died age 50, date and place of death unknown. Shalom Reuben, place of birth unknown, date and place of death unknown. Chaya Pen, born in Anushishok, Lithuania, date and place of death unknown. Shana Pen, born in Anushishok, Lithuania, date and place of death unknown. Bunya Shifrin, born in Jembin, White Russia, died age 68 in Minsk, date of death unknown. Avramel Shifrin, born in Jembin, White Russia, died age 70, date and place of death unknown. Rena Wachenheimer, born in Frankfurt, died age 43 at Auschwitz in 1942. Stefan Bruchfeld, born in Paris, France, died age 13 in 1942, place of death unknown. Eva Clara Friedlander Levy, born in Berlin, died age 35, at Sobibor, Poland, in 1943.
Eliyahu David Wise, Malat, age 75, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. Mia Wise, Malat, age 69, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. Aziel Wise, from Malat, age 36, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. Maisha Wise, from Malat, age unknown, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. Bela Wise, Malat, age 38, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. Chana Tab Wise, Malat, age unknown, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. Rivka Dina Wise, Malat, age unknown, place of death unknown, date of death 1941.
Leon Lehman, age 38, Poland, date of death unknown. Golda Lehman, age 16, Majdanek, date of death unknown. Frida Lehman, age 12, Majdanek, date of death unknown. Friedrich Gadish, age 60, Latvia, date of death unknown.
Hugo Delicat, Austria, age 67, place of death unknown, date of death 1944. Arthur Baron, Austria, age 70, place of death unknown, date of death 1944. Saja Juncker, Poland, age 55, place of death unknown, date of death 1944. Ernst Wolget Muth, Germany, age 59, place of death unknown, date of death 1944.
Anita Hirschman from Germany, age 35, 1941. Emilia Becker Shapira from Austria, age 53, 1941. Jakob Albedov from Poland, age 59, 1941. Ephraim Otner from Poland, age 52, 1941.
Ruchla Offenbach, 50, Poland, 1943. Max Margulies, 67, Poland, 1943. Cyrus Lotak, 51, Poland, 1944. Gertrude Fuchs, 42, Austria, 1944.
From Amsterdam, Frederica Bostock, age 4, Auschwitz, 1941. From Amsterdam, Henrietta van der Sluys, age 9, Auschwitz, 1942. From Amsterdam, Louis Koopman, age 2, Sobibor, 1943. From Austria, Anstel Kamil, age 30, Auschwitz, 1943.
Fege Kaplan, age 14, Auschwitz, 1940. Shana Kashna, age 40, Ponevezh, Lithuania, 1942. Mina Kashna, age 12, Ponevezh, Lithuania, 1941. Fruma Yatskan, age unknown, Bulbanik, Lithuania, 1941.
Chana Hubner, Austria, 64, buried in 1941. Kovo Armand, Turkey, age 39, buried in 1941. Rose Klein, Poland, 74, buried in 1941.
Erna Kahn, 46, Austria, 1941. Harry Engler, 38, Austria, 1941. Ernst Haas, 42, Austria, 1941.
Theodor Wildorf, Danzig, 52, 1942. Marcus Siegelbaum, Poland, 38, 1942. Mendel Munk, Poland, 54, 1942. Koper Zurich, Poland, 45, 1942. Jacob Baumgarten, Hungary, 59, 1942.
One of the starkest lessons that emerged from the Nazi catastrophe
was that neither superior education nor high culture is sufficient to prevent a nation from descending into barbarity. Germany, before World War II, was in many ways at the forefront of European civilization, yet ultimately it surrendered itself to a hate-filled and utterly irrational ideology that came close to destroying that civilization altogether. Yet even during the Holocaust, culture and creativity had an important part to play, not among its perpetrators, but among its designated victims. Music was heard in many ghettos, concentration camps, and partisan outposts of Nazi-controlled Europe. While popular songs dating from before the war remained attractive, the ghetto, camp, and partisan settings also gave rise to a repertoire of new works. For many victims of Nazi brutality, music was an important means of preserving and asserting their humanity. This music also serves as a form of historical documentation. Like audio snapshots, these works offer a telling glimpse into the events and emotions that the creators and original audiences experienced firsthand. We are privileged to begin our ceremony with two such poignant musical items.
Time. Ich blonsche in Ghetto, von Ghetto zu Ghetto, und kennet Gefühl in mein Ort. Nicht to ist mein Liebe, betrockt meine Liebe, Menschen nur sucht kostet Wort. Es leicht auf meinem Heim ist der Himmel der Blaue, wo she hab ich jetzt davon. Ich steh wie ein Bettler und jetzt wird ein Teurer und ich bete, wie das Sohn. Frühling, nimm zu mein Treuer und bring mein Liebster, mein Treuer zu mir. Der Frühling go früh angekommen, zerblitt hat sich Menschaf nur dir. Ich die Hitze Ballode mit Blumen, Freitag geht's zu mir. Die Sonne hat vergossen den Garten mit Sternen, Spruch schob die sich in Grün. Mein Treuer, mein Liebster, wie gehst du verfallen? Du gehst nicht heraus von mein zu mein Treuer und bring mein Liebster, mein Treuer zu mir. Frühling, auf deine Flügel bläue und mein Herz mit und gib es auf mein Glück.
Pesa Lewin, Lutsen, Latvia, age 62, Riga Ghetto, 1941. Srol Lewin, Rahitsa, Latvia, age 66, Riga Ghetto, 1941. Gershon Lewin, Lutsen, Latvia, aged 40, Riga Ghetto, 1941. Dora Kretzer, Lutsen, Latvia, aged 39, Riga Ghetto, 1941.
Osher Zelik Naturman, Lukau, Poland, Auschwitz. Rivka Naturman, Gluwakschau, Poland, Auschwitz. Avrom Yitzchak Naturman, Lukau, Poland. Polka Naturman, Warsaw, Poland, Auschwitz.
Shia Plaks from Lipaya, age 66, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. David Plaks from Lipaya, age 22, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. Sarah Plaks from Lipaya, age 57, place of death unknown, date of death 1941. Mayor Plaks from Lipaya, age 17, place of death unknown, date of death 1941.
Olga Cohen Moses, Plashin, Poland, age 66, place of death unknown, 1942. Louise Moses Lewandowski, Blobson's Posen, age 36, place of death unknown, 1942. Heinz Lewandowski, place of birth unknown, age 9, place of death unknown, 1942. Gitta Lewandowski, place of birth unknown, age 6, place of death unknown, 1942.
Siegfried Levy, born in Berlin, died age 45 at Sobibor, Poland, in 1943. Bertha Beck Rosenberg, born in Sered, died age 62 at Minsk, Mali, Trostenik, in 1942. Regina Rosenberg, born in Vienna, died age 33 at Minsk, Mali, Trostenik, in 1942. Abraham Blumenthal, born in Chisinau, Republic of Moldova, died age 24 in 1945, place of death unknown.
Regina Hassan, Rhodes, 5, 1944. Victor Hassan, Rhodes, 29, 1944. Yaakov Hassan, Rhodes, 1, 1944. Buli Hassan, Rhodes, 26, 1944.
Bernard Packer, Russia, 61, 1943. Sarah Froelich Brain, Poland, 63, 1943.
Marta Retberg, 58 years old, Poland, 1941. Rachel Schachter, 56 years old, Poland, 1941.
Sigmund Drill, Austria, 69, buried in 1941. Benno Werner, Poland, 8 years old, buried in 1941.
Rivka Pipsch, age 24, Auschwitz, 1943. David Pipsch, age 56, Auschwitz, 1943.
From Austria, Ernst Bach, age 62, Auschwitz, 1944. From Austria, Hans Arment, age 10, Auschwitz, 1944.
Bianca Lewandowski, 62, Germany, 1944. Gustav Bondi, 63, Austria, 1944.
Elias Julius from Germany, age 29, 1941. Wemberg Schlammes from Poland, age 28, 1941.
Emil Pavil, Czechoslovakia, age 57. Place of death unknown. Date of death 1944. Emma Lewandowski, Germany, age 56. Place of death unknown. Date of death 1944.
Rochelle Gradis, age 60, Latvia, date of death unknown. Lisa Regen, age 26, and her baby Rosa of 3, Auschwitz, date of death unknown.
Welcome to our online Yom Hashoah ceremony. Once again this year, we have worked as a national team to create a ceremony that's representative of the South African Jewish community across our country. The closest that the Shoah came to South Africa was the 1,580 European Jews who were incarcerated as prisoners on the island of Mauritius, which was a British colony at the time, from 1940 to 1945. This was after they had desperately searched for safety in the British Mandate of Palestine and were refused. During their tough incarceration, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies played an important role in negotiating on behalf of the prisoners with the High Commissioner in South Africa, as well as sending supplies continuously in the form of prayer books, matzah, etc. We are therefore extremely pleased that this important and often unknown story is going to be included in our ceremony today. The Israeli ambassador, Ambassador Lior Kainan, will now bring a short message.
Dear Holocaust survivors, rabbis, Jewish leadership, schools, members of the diplomatic corps, dear friends. We find ourselves at the start of the second year of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. This was a difficult year for us all, but it was especially trying for the Holocaust survivors. For many survivors, the lockdowns at home brought back the harsh memories they cannot forget. The decade of complete darkness they had to face, surrounded only with absolute evil. In this year's ceremony, I unfortunately cannot meet the survivor personally, but I would like to at least send them these words in support from afar. I would also like to dedicate this day in the memory of Holocaust survivor Veronica Phillips, Zichronah Livracha, who has just recently passed away. Veronica was one of the bravest and most special people I have met in my life, and I am so grateful I had the privilege to know her. May her memory be a blessing. While many of us would be glad to erase this last year from our lives, for anti-Semitism, no time was lost. The lockdowns around the world may have reduced the physical violence aimed at Jewish communities, but we have found ourselves confronting a different type of violence, New conspiracy theories emerge daily, placing the blame for the pandemic on the Jews. We must continue to fight an uncompromising fight against violence and anti-Semitism wherever it rears its ugly head, and in parallel to continue our hard work to make Israel an even safer place for all Jews around the world. All this to ensure that the Holocaust will never occur, will never again. Thank you.
Our ceremony today is very special and focuses on the theme of memory, resilience, and hope. 6 remarkable survivors will share exceptional messages with us. And they will then, at the end of each of their message, light a candle. This will form a very poignant candle lighting ceremony. The names that were read out by our youth and will continue to be read out during the ceremony are names supplied by you, our community. And so the family members of our community who were murdered during the Shoah will be remembered today, as well, of course, as those who died while in incarceration in Mauritius. The greatest gift that we can offer survivors is the promise that our youth take the responsibility to remember. And I always think of the beautiful message that Veronica Phillips of blessed memory used to bring to the ceremonies where she spoke, and in her magnificent Hungarian accent would say, Lador vador, from generation to generation we must remember. And so I am sure that these messages from the exceptional survivors today, interspersed with the wonderful voices of hope from our youth, will leave us all feeling inspired and hopeful.
My Jewish sisters, my Jewish brothers, my name is Marion Tursky, but my real name has been Moshe Turbovich. I'm a survivor of Auschwitz. I live in Poland, and I am privileged to share with you some ideas connected with Yom Hashoah. I think on this day we should keep in mind, or I would say carry out, some special, maybe 3 special commandments. Number 1, probably you know that in Israel this day is named Yom Hashoah v'Hagvura, which means the day of Shoah, of the Holocaust, and of heroism. And this is true because, first of all, on this day we keep in mind our martyrs and our heroes, and there is no antinomy between it. The martyrs were also heroes. Yes, this is true. We have special respect to those who fought with arms. But how many Jews could afford to have any weapon in those days? This was very, 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 very seldom, very rare. But I think we should also have in mind the great crowd, the great number of people participate in the resistance, not only in the armed resistance, those people who try to help each other, to organize people kitchen, to look for the poorest people, to prepare shelters when there could be a possibility to escape from a ghetto. At the same time, please, my dear sisters and brothers, don't accept any opinion that those who didn't fight, they went as sheep to the slaughterhouse. I can't agree that my decent, wonderful father, who was a good Zionist, who was a good Jew, a good family father, that when he was gassed in Auschwitz, that he died without dignity. We should reject this kind of opinion. Point 2. Please look around. There are still fewer and fewer, but there are still survivors, needy survivors. They are very often alone, with no families. They are not able to move. They need home care. They need help. They need assistance. They please help, look around and help those needy people to survive their last days in dignity. So this is the second point on Day Hashoah. And the third, maybe the most important. And this is what I raised a year ago in my speech in Auschwitz, because I'm, by the way, the vice president of the International Auschwitz Committee. And I spoke in Auschwitz. And then, what is our duty, the survivors like myself, to warn this next generation, people who are like my daughter, like my granddaughter, like my grandson, people of those generations, to prevent once more a repetition of Nazis, a repetition of races, a repetition of fascism, a repetition of Auschwitz, because Auschwitz doesn't fall from the sky suddenly. It was prepared step by step, step by step, step by step. And I'm looking also in my country, probably you have also the experience from your country, and you know that this is our duty every day, day by day, prevent those populist movements, those people who seduce population, sometimes corrupting them also, like Trump, in order to break democratic ties between people, those who are crushing the division of power, because this is what is a danger. And believe me, the last experience with the Capitol in Washington is a next warning that it could happen anywhere. Therefore, this is the maybe the most important warning. Cautious, be cautious. This is my message to the next generation. Thank you.
Marion Tursky is in isolation in Warsaw and was unable to access a candle, so I have the privilege of lighting this candle on his behalf. This candle is in honor of all those who tried desperately to resist Nazi tyranny. From those people who smuggled a loaf of bread or taught children in secret, to those who rose up in ghettos, this candle is in your honor.
I was 16 years old, still in high school, and living with my parents and brother in Warsaw, Poland, at the time of the German invasion in September 1939. Once they had occupied the country, the Nazis immediately began targeting Jews for discriminatory treatment. In October 1940, all remaining Jews in the city were crowded into the Warsaw Ghetto. There, large numbers died of hunger and disease during the next 2 years. while many more were deported to so-called labor camps. My brother died fighting in the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. After the ghetto was liquidated, survivors were sent to various concentration camps. I was transported first to Majdanek, then to Auschwitz-Birkenau. Near the end of the war, with the approach of the Soviet army, I was sent on a death march to Ravensbrück, eventually to Malchow. Somehow, with divine providence, I survived long enough to be liberated by the Allies. Out of my whole family, only I and a sister were still alive when the war ended. In 1947, I immigrated to South Africa with my beloved husband, Cantor Jacob Lichterman of blessed memory, where we were able to build a new life. Over the years, I have always tried to use my experiences as a means of educating people regarding the evils of racial and anti-Semitic hatred and the values of tolerance and acceptance of difference. There is nothing to be gained from hating and vengeance. Even in inhuman circumstances, we must remain human and caring of each other. This is the last message my parents gave me, and I give it to you. One of the features of the Holocaust that made it such a unique evil is how children were as much targeted for murder as adults. Massacres have occurred throughout history, but even in the most evil circumstances, it was not usual for children to be slaughtered along with their parents. This was not the case in the Holocaust. Rather, the Nazis hunted down Jewish children as thoroughly as they hunted down all other Jews. And along with the elderly and infirm, they were generally marked for immediate murder on arrival at the death camp. The Nazis did not see Jewish children as innocent and harmless, but as the seed bearers of a biologically polluted and inferior race that had to be exterminated, just like any other dangerous virus. This candle is being lit in memory of the 1.5 million Jewish children that were lost in the Holocaust and in honor of future generations.
When a young Jewish inmate of the Vilna ghetto, Hirsch Glick, heard the news of the 1943 Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, he was inspired to write lyrics of what is popularly known as the partisan song. Glig's lyrics were set to music from a pre-Soviet song written by the Pokras brothers, Dmitry and Daniel Pokras. It became the anthem of the Jewish underground resistance movement in World War II and is perhaps the best known of the Yiddish songs created during the Holocaust. It spread with remarkable rapidity to other camps and ghettos. The song is powerful and defiantly optimistic, acknowledging Jewish suffering in the past and present, and urging the Jewish people to continue fighting for their survival. In addition to raising the morale of fighters against the Nazis, it can also be an inspiration to new generations, if they are aware of it. To ensure that this magnificent song and its stirring message is not lost, World Ort is currently supporting a campaign to introduce it to school children around the world. The result has moved groups of students at World Ort schools in Kiev, Odessa, Kishinev, Vilnius, Chernovitzy, Tallinn, Moscow, Kazan, Samara, and Mexico to prepare videos for Yom Hashoah singing the anthem. The various renditions can be accessed on the internet.
Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst im letzten Weg, wenn Himmeln bleien verstehen Leute. Kommen wird doch unser Eisgebänkte schon, es wird erbeugten unser Trott, wir seinen da. Kommen wird doch unser Eisgebänkte schon, es wird erbeugten unser Trott, wir seinen da. Von Palmenland bis Land von weißen Schnee, wir kommen an mit unser Bein, mit unser Weg. Und wo gefallen ist ein Spritz von unser Blut, sprotzen weg dort unser Chore, unser Mund. Und wo gefallen ist ein Spritz von unser Blut, sprotzen weg dort unser Chore, unser Mund. Es wird die Morgensonne gilden uns dem Heim, und der Nächten wird verschwinden mitten frei. Nur heute versammeln wird die Sonne in dem Kajor, wie a Parol soll gehen das Lied von dort zu dort. Nur heute versammeln wird die Sonne in dem Kajor, wie a Parol soll gehen das Lied von dort zu dort. Geschrieben ist das Lied mit Blut und mit Mitleid, es ist nicht kein Hilf und a Vogel läuft der frei. Das Wort davon zu wischen, fallen dicke Wehen. Das Lied gesungen mit ner Gannes in die Hände. Das Wort davon zu wischen, fallen dicke Wehen. Das Lied gesungen mit ner Gannes in die Hände. So sag nicht keinmal, lass du gehst im letzten Weg, wenn Himmeln bleien verstellen Leute. Wenn doch unser Ausgewählte schon, es wird erbeuten unser Trott, wir seinen Lohn. Oben wenn doch unser Ausgewählte schon, es wird erbeuten unser Trott, wir seinen Lohn. Partisanen, Partisanen, Partisanen.
Shalom, my name is Oscar Joshua Langsam. I'm 90 years old. Maybe I'm one of the last survivors of the detainees of the British Beaubassin detainment camp. We were exiled to Mauritius by the British government for trying to enter Palestine in 1940. During World War II, my mother and I were among the 1,584 Jewish refugees from Nazi Germany who were detained on Mauritius by the British government. I was born in Danzig, now Gdansk, in Poland, in 1931 and was 10 years old when my mother's 3-year-old brother Hermann and I fled Europe. In October 1940, together with hundreds of other Jewish refugees. We arrived by ship at Haifa harbor. We had hoped to be given sanctuary in Eretz Israel, but the British government, which controlled what was then mandatory Palestine, refused us entry. Instead, together with many of our fellow refugees, we were removed to a temporary detention camp in Atlit. There my little brother contracted typhus and died soon afterwards. After 10 days, we were crowded onto a ship and transported from Palestine to the island of Mauritius, which at the time was a British colony. Conditions on board were crowded and unsanitary, and a number of the refugees died during the 17-day journey. When we arrived, we were taken to detention camps in Beaubassin. The men were held in a former prison and the women and children in adjacent iron huts. For the next 4 years and 9 months, this was our home. We had very little contact with the outside world and for a long time were not permitted to leave the camp. We also suffered from tropical diseases and inadequate food and clothing. Later restrictions were relaxed somewhat, allowing people to travel and work outside the camp. One of my most abiding memories of those times is of celebrating my bar mitzvah. In August 1945, the British government allowed the refugees to go to Palestine. My mother and I settled in Rehovot, where I live to this day. Not all of the original 1,584 refugees lived to reach the Holy Land. 128 of them died in captivity, mainly from disease, and are buried on the island. They too were victims of the Holocaust, and it is in their honored memory, as well as in memory of all the Jewish detainees on Mauritius, that this candle is being lit. I think now of my school friends and teachers. Some of them are not with us anymore. Butz Kurnik, Bubi Kelle, Dorshin Zamori, Sabina Yaffa and Dita Eisler, Zichronam Levracha. I remember my visit to the Jewish cemetery in San Martin, Mauritius, some years ago, and said Kaddish over the grave of Dita Eisler, our beloved 20-year-old music teacher who died of polio a few months before our release.
Everyone has a name, given to him by God and given to him by his parents. Everyone has a name, given to him by his stature and the way he smiles, and given to him by his clothing.
לכל איש יש שם, שנתנו לו ההרים ונתנו לו כתליו. לכל איש יש שם, שנתנו לו המזלות ונתנו לו שכיניו.
Everyone has a name, given to him by his sins and given to him by his longing. Everyone has a name, given to him by his enemies and given to him by his love.
לכל איש יש שם, שנתנו לו חגיו, ונתנה לו מלאכתו. לכל איש יש שם, שנתנו לו כתובות השנה, ונתן לו עוונו. לכל איש יש שם, שנתן לו הים, ונתן לו מותו.
My name is Ella Blumenthal, nee Frank. I was born in Warsaw, Poland in 1921, the youngest in a family of 7 children. My father was a successful textile merchant and I had a happy, secure childhood. All this was swept away forever on the 1st of September 1939 when Germany invaded Poland. And under the German occupation, conditions for the Jews in Warsaw steadily worsened. In October 1940, we were herded into the ghetto. And by the time of the great uprising in April 1943, the only remaining members of my family were my father, my niece Roma, and I. The other 22 members in all had been then deported. I took part in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and afterwards the 3 of us were deported to Majdanek. On arrival, I was immediately separated from my father, who I never saw again. After Majdanek, I was sent to Auschwitz and then to Bergen-Belsen, where I remained with my niece Roma until we were liberated by the British in April 1945. The 2 of us were the only members of our large family who survived the Holocaust. My parents, brothers and sisters and nephews were all murdered in Treblinka. In 1948, I married a South African I met in Israel and moved to Johannesburg and then to Cape Town, where I lived ever since. From our marriage came 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren. Had I not survived the death camps, none of them would have been born. That in turn raises the question, how many more children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren would my brothers and sisters have brought into this world had their lives not been so brutally taken from them? When remembering the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust, let us think also of those generations that were never allowed to come into being at all. Even today, 75 years later, the Jewish people have never completely recovered from that devastation. In Poland, the country of my birth, only a bare fraction remains of the large, vibrant Jewish community that were living there before the coming of the Nazi beast. When remembering the 6 million Jews who died in the Shoah, We do not think of them in terms of statistics, but as distinctive individuals who loved and were loved by those around them, and who had their own unique personalities and attributes, dreams, hopes, and aspirations. With the murder of each and every one of them, a special light was extinguished, and it is in the memory of all those extinguished lights that I light this candle today.
My name is Pinchas Guter. I'm a Holocaust survivor. I had my bar mitzvah in a concentration camp in Chenstochova. And Harav Godel Eisner, who was a friend of my father, who I found there, we got up in the midnight because, you know, it was dangerous to have prayers. And he had a talis, he had tefillin, he had the siddur. They made me bar mitzvah. I wasn't 13 yet, but they made me bar mitzvah. And he blessed me and he said, with God, in Eibishter's help, that's the Berlin Hitler. With God's help, you would outlive Hitler. And both he and I, you know, outlived Hitler. And he became a Rosh. He left his wife, he lost his wife and children. He went to Israel, became a big Rosh Yeshiva. And only a few years ago, in his late 90s, he passed away. This heritage of ours is everlasting. It will not disappear. How many Hamanim are going to get out? How much anti-Semitism we're going to experiencing? It will not help them. The Am Yisrael Chai. A few days ago, I received a letter from a young schoolgirl who, together with her class, had visited the Toronto Holocaust Education Center and watched and interacted with my hologram. I would like to quote a few words from the email that she sent me afterwards. That day has changed my life, she wrote. The whole day I was in tears and so inspired by you. I am so thankful that I was able to go to the education center, and I think that people being educated more on this, it would not happen as much. And I hope in years to come, I can inspire others to make a change as you have inspired me. At present, Holocaust education is done by historians, academics, teachers, and Holocaust survivors. It is my belief that interaction with Holocaust survivors is absolutely vital for evoking the emotional response as well as empathy from participants. Soon, however, there will be no more Holocaust survivors. Technology has come to the rescue, providing remarkable new tools such as the hologram and virtual reality. The new methods of education will assist all those working in this field and hopefully reach out ever more widely. I personally am very happy that in the future, people will watch my hologram. I hope that many more survivors will participate in this program and make it possible for the world to see, hear, and interact with what actually happened at the time of the Holocaust. I fervently believe in the importance of Holocaust education, the importance of never forgetting what happened. I acknowledge my obligation as a survivor to be a witness, and I try to fulfill that as best as I can. So when the time comes, when I'm no longer able to personally visit schools or universities and speak about my experiences, I feel content that the hologram and virtual reality do that for me well in the future. I am going to light the candle in memory of my twin sister, Sabina Guter, who lost her life in Majdanek when she was murdered by the Nazis. Unfortunately, I can't remember her face. For some reason, my mind, my brain she was a twin. We were born together. We lived together for 11 years. We shared in the ghetto, we shared the same room together with our parents. And after all those years, immediately when I saw her the last time running towards my mother, I saw a beautiful braid. She had this long blonde braid. We were both blonde and blue-eyed. And all I can remember now of my sister, nothing for a whole 11 years except the braid. She's running towards my mother. And of course, immediately after that, they were taken away and they were murdered by the Nazis. So I'm lighting this candle in her memory. And every year, when I light a candle, I light in memory of my twin sister, Sabina. Thank you. I am the full-time cantor, honorary, for the last 30 odd years at the Kiev Shul, downtown Toronto, where I do all their services. And I would now like to recite the El Mola Rachamim for the 6 million of our martyrs that gave their life al Kiddush Hashem.
El Male Rachamim Shochewen B'Meromim Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashechiena Bemalot Kedoshim Tehoirim Kezoar Harakia Meirim ומזהירים את נשמות אחינו ואחיותינו והטף שנאספו בשואה על ידי הגרמנים יימח שמם. ועד שכל הקול הזה יתפלל בדילוי נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם וישכבו על משכבותיהם בשלום ונאמר אמן. אל מולי רחמים שוכבים במרומים המצאי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים מאירים ומזהירים את נשמות אחינו ואחיותינו שנאספו בשואה בידי הנאצים הרוצחים יימח שמם. ועד שכל הקול הזה יתפלל בדילוי נשמותיהם, אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם, ונאמר אמן.
This haunting melody was composed by Adriel David Fastag while being transported in a cattle cart to Treblinka. This melody draws on the essential Jewish belief that no matter our circumstances, hope of salvation and redemption prevails. This song was sung by dozens of Jews as they marched the gas chambers in the death camps. It is sung on Yom Hashoah and also during trying times for the Jewish people.
Be
pi she'yitmameach im kol ze'achar kelo v'af al pi she'yitmameach im kol ze'achar kelo.
Every Yom Hashoah, we remember the 6 million Jewish victims of Nazi genocide and commit ourselves anew to fighting for a world where such evils will never be allowed to recur. Only by remembering the tragedies of the past and drawing the appropriate lessons from them can we ensure that they are never repeated. It is thus not only the scourge of anti-Semitism that we must commit ourselves to fighting, but ignorance and apathy as well. We have just had the exceptional privilege of listening to 6 survivors, each bringing a distinctive and powerful message. It is now our responsibility to take these messages forward, to give them practical application wherever we can, and most importantly, to pass them on to future generations. The youth have a particular duty in this regard, and I am glad to see them so well represented. Much hard work and planning has gone into organizing today's event and in ensuring that it is as inclusive as possible. It has been a truly inclusive ceremony with representatives from Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, Durban, East London and Port Elizabeth, and even from Mauritius, a country which our community has a unique link with in terms of the Holocaust. On behalf of all of us, I warmly thank all of those involved, in particular our National President Mary Klook, Tali Nates and Heather Blumenthal, and the 3 Holocaust and Genocide Centres in Johannesburg, Durban and Cape Town. Finally, I thank everyone who has joined us today for this important and meaningful occasion.
Max Orlov, Russia, 58, 1943. Bernard Friedman, Danzig, 49, 1943. Sophie Flatto, Danzig, 60, 1943. Karl Spitz, Czechoslovakia, 63, 1943. Karl Lenk, Austria, 59, 1943. Adolf Hachberg, Austria, 45, 1943. Max Weisner, Poland, 63, 1943. Oscar Wagner, Austria, 62, 1943. Albert Shaw, Austria, 46, 1943. Jonas Rosengarten, Austria, 46, 1943. Lena Enoch, Posen or Poland, 62, 1943. Isidor Nelken, Austria, 50, 1943.
Bernard Kretzer, Riga, Latvia, age 45, Buchenwald, 1945. Rudi Kretzer, Riga, Latvia, aged 8, Riga Ghetto, 1941. Leah Latta, Lützen, Latvia, aged 37, Riga Ghetto, 1941. Moses Latta, Latvia, aged 36, Buchenwald, 1944. Rafael Latta, Latvia, aged 2, Riga Ghetto, 1941. Ruth Marcus, Lithuania, age unknown, place of death unknown, date of death unknown. Melanie Oster, Marion, Germany, age 61, place of death unknown, date of death unknown. Erich Wolstein, Herne, Germany, age unknown, place of death Auschwitz, date 1943. Herbert Wolstein, Herne, Germany, age unknown, Auschwitz 1943. Edith Wolstein, Herne, Germany, age unknown, Auschwitz 1943.
Mietik Stiller, age 43, Polano, 1943. Fege Mandels, age 66, Majdanek, 1943. Misha Fuchs, age 12, Poland, Warsaw Ghetto, 1943. Dora Weissman, age 3, Auschwitz, 1942. Riva Schafsman, Morocco, age 33, Auschwitz, 1943. Golda Schafsman, Rosenberg, age 73, Auschwitz, 1942. Miriam Zilberberg, age 21, Auschwitz, date of death unknown. Bernard Zilberberg, age 22, Auschwitz, date of death unknown. Max Mantel, age 31, Auschwitz, 1942. Leah Beta, age 59, Statov, 1945. Aaron Beta, age 30, Flossenburg, 1945. Etta Beta, age 22, Statov, date of death unknown.
Mendel Natterman, Warsaw, Poland, Auschwitz. Gittel Sparzman, Warsaw, Poland, Auschwitz. Salka Grainspan, Warsaw, Poland, Auschwitz.
Gedalia Bluval, born in Chisinau, Republic of Moldova, died age 18 in 1943, place of death unknown. Ernst Bernstein, born in Germany, place of death Auschwitz, date of death unknown. Mina Wolf, place of birth unknown, place of death Auschwitz, date of death unknown. Seta Friesem, place of birth unknown, place of death Sobibor, Poland, date of death unknown. Moses Friesem, place of birth unknown, place of death Sobibor, Poland, date of death unknown.
Roxy Sophia Linzer, 46 years old, Austria, 1941. Vera Halt, 67 years old, Germany, 1941. Sally Monsane, 37, Poland, 1941. Henrietta Lindenbaum, 60 years old, Danzig, 1941. Marit Horser, 60 years old, Austria, 1941. Hitler Schwartz, 30 years old, Austria, 1941. Jacob Sventelski, 11 years old, Poland, 1941. Selma Mannheim, 58 years old, Germany, 1941. Caroline Wiesner, 60 years old, Austria, 1941. Jason Pinsky, 58 years old, Poland, 1941. Paula Heiss, 64 years old, Czechoslovakia, 1941. Leopold Franke, 40 years old, Neuenkirchen, 1941. Burkhard Grunhert, 61 years old, Czechoslovakia, 1941. Masha Engel, 50 years old, Poland, 1941. Edward Schon, 32 years old, Czechoslovakia, 1941. David Spitz, 58 years old, Czechoslovakia, 1941.
Victor Ferdinand Kober, from Bohemia, age unknown, place of death Treblinka, date of death 1940. Maya Lita Kober, Vienna, age unknown, place of death Treblinka, date of death 1940. Flora Mayer, Germany, age 44, place of death Theresienstadt, date of death 1942. Frieda Oppenheimer, Germany, age 54, place of death Auschwitz, date of death 1942. Gunther Wolfberg, Germany, age 17, place of death Auschwitz, date of death 1942. Heinz Wertheim, Germany, age 17, place of death Auschwitz, date of death 1942. Joseph Eltgenag, Germany, age 53, place of death Minsk, Belarus, date of death 1942.
George Schlittner, Mauritius, 2 months old, buried in 1941. Jude Wilder, Austria, age 55, buried in 1941. Max Koenig, Danzig, aged 55, buried in 1941. Valerie Klein-Stern, Slovakia, 43, buried in 1941. Dr. Fritz Berglas, Austria, aged 47, buried in 1941. Chaya Graber, Poland, aged 70, buried in 1941. Hermann Flatow, Danzig, 59, buried in 1941. Frida Parel, Austria, aged 62, buried in 1941. Sigmund Reiniger, Austria, 67, buried in 1942. Joseph Stwerker, Austria, aged 67, buried in 1942. Fischl Hirsch, Austria, 58, buried in 1942. Feldman Saul, Austria, 58, buried in 1942. Benjamin Speer, Austria, 56, buried in 1942. Elias Kochman, Poland, 71, buried in 1942. Ellis Seelman, Germany, 54, buried in 1942. Samuel Feyer, Poland, 58, buried in 1942.
Bertold Varsky, 65, Danzig, 1944. Willem Lowe, 63, Germany, Berlin, 1944. Hermine Singer, 53, Austria, 1944. Willem Fried, 68, Danzig, Budweis, 1944. Fritz Schmitz, 51, Czechoslovakia, 1944. Heinz Kohn, 34, Danzig, 1944. Sabina Shapira, 54, Austria, 1944. Sigmund Zielig, 66, Germany, 1944. Hans Ludwig Heymann, 41, Danzig, 1944. Arthur Steinberg, 32, Austria, 1944. Shia Grenlat, 61, Poland, 1944. Greta Zilagi, 62, Austria, 1944. Siegfried Seelman, 57, Poland, 1944. Marcus Felt, 64, Danzig, 1944.
Leo Klein, Austria, age 56, place of death unknown, date of death 1944. Fritz Händel, Czechoslovakia, age 34, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Henriette Löw, Germany, age 65, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Meta Epstein, Germany, age 16, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Rosa Steiner, Austria, age 60, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Richard Neustadter, Austria, age 61, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Siegmund Gottlieb, Austria, age 62, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Adolf Gerstl, Austria, age 69, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Ludwig Krakauer, Austria, age 72, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Dr. Maximilian Fuchs, Austria, age 60, place of death unknown, date of death 1945. Adolf Fleißig, Austria, age 41. Place of death unknown. Date of death 1945. Chaim Zlotak, Russia, age 61. Place of death unknown. Date of death 1945. Edith Dieter Eisler, Austria, age 20. Place of death unknown. Date of death 1945. Samuel Topper, Russia, age 56. Place of death unknown. Date of death 1945.
Betty Rosa Mannheim, Stettin, Germany, age 57, place of death unknown, 1942. Ruth Mannheim, Stettin, Germany, age 30, place of death unknown, 1942. Delete Schmidt, VX age 69, place of death unknown, date of death unknown. Sonia Walpert, VX age 30, place of death unknown, date of death unknown. Janko Walpert, VX age 36, place of death unknown, date of death unknown. Pinsish Meditate, VX age 20, place of death unknown, date of death unknown. Wolf Wallach, VX age unknown, place of death unknown, date of death unknown. Moshe Yaakov Yasulovitz, Rebel Kai, Lithuania, age unknown, place of death unknown, date of death unknown.
Vida Hassan, Rhodes, 32, 1944. Max Prince, Germany, 53, 1945. Jacob Rydberg, Austria-Hungary, 70, 1945. Fritzi Weiner, Austria, 35, 1945. Garcia Schiffman, Ukraine, 66, 1945. Berja Izia, Lithuania, 81, 1945.
Yitzhak Yakub Rapinski, from Danzig, age 5, 1941. Ruth Gross, from Austria, age 9, 1941. Fritz Barnos, from Germany, age 62, 1941. Alexander Klein, from Hungary, age 66, 1941. Joseph Merode, from Austria, age 66, 1941. Bertha Cesaris, from Austria, age 57, 1941. Emma Glacker, from Austria, age 57, 1941. Chaja Hornstein, from Poland, age 66, 1941. Ella Markelson, from Danzig, age 43, 1941. Gitta Baruch, from Poland, age 45, 1941. Amalia Jaou, from Austria, age 65, 1941. Richard Benedict, from Austria, age 42, 1941. Carolina Renninger, from Austria, age 59, 1941.
Fagel Pipsch, age 45, Auschwitz, 1942. Itzik Schatz, age 44, Latvia, 1945. Herzl Zach, age 17, Latvia, 1945. Masha Zach, age 12, Latvia, 1945.
From Austria, Matilda Eisner, age 50, Minsk, Belarusia, 1942. From Austria, Nathan Triebweder, age 66, Italy, 1944. From Austria, Rachel Back, age 58, Auschwitz, 1944. From Belgium, Chaim Ringer, age 59, Auschwitz, 1943. From Belgium, Chaja Likolat, age 36, Auschwitz, 1943. From Belgium, Hinda Makovsky, age 53, Auschwitz, 1943. From Bucharest, Tamara Schwartz, age 4, Black Sea, 1942. From Czechoslovakia, Abraham Weisel, age 10, Auschwitz, 1942. From Czechoslovakia, Armin Blau, age 14, Auschwitz, 1944. From Czechoslovakia, Avraham Neubar, age 45, Auschwitz, 1944. From Czechoslovakia, Berhus Kwiskovitz, age 31, Auschwitz, 1944. From Czechoslovakia, Fritz Hirschmann, age 65, Auschwitz, 1944. From Czechoslovakia, Hinda Christenbaum, age 59, Auschwitz, 1944.